Welcome to She Makes It Work with Gabby and Abi. Today we're talking about the 7 mistakes at work that are holding you back.
The next mistake you could be making at work that's holding you back is not projecting confidence.
Not projecting confidence. Well, I think I'm confident when I show up. How do you mean?
Oh, you think you are?
Mm.
Are you, or do you think you
Well,
are?
now I don't know.
There you go. Abby's so good at demonstrating this intentionally, right? Which is to do that through language, right? And the words you use. And so sometimes the words make you look less confident if you're using too many modifiers and you're doing things that diminish what you're saying. I usually key into 2 things when I'm looking at people that make me think they lack confidence.
Ooh, what are those?
Okay.
Do tell.
Yes, these 2 are huge for me. One is looking frazzled and or frantic.
Ooh, guilty of that in the past, for sure.
In the past.
In the past.
And what's so funny is I also was guilty of this one in the past, which is maybe why it's such a big trigger to me now, right? Because that's always the things we hone in on, is the things that we don't or didn't like about ourselves. You would not catch me doing this today, I can tell you that. But in my earlier career, if something was going on, I felt like if I just looked like I was working really hard, I was genuinely working hard, but I felt like if I looked frantic or frazzled, I was showing I was working hard. I was showing I cared.
Everyone can see how busy I am.
Everyone can see how busy I am. But
Mm.
unfortunately, it actually makes you look less confident. And I had a big aha moment about this. It was when I had switched to consulting, and I had probably stopped doing this myself, but it wasn't such a conscious thought at this time. When I switched to consulting, I was working with this woman, and it was so interesting to me, the power of conveying confidence as well as what conveying confidence looked like, because her program was not going well. And it was so funny to me because on paper, it was very obvious that her program was not going well, but she was so well respected by the client and by our executive leadership at our firm. And I felt like it was a huge contrast to me, where I felt like I had a lot of like expertise confidence that people were granting me. And my programs were doing very well on paper and in reality. And so, but what was interesting is because of her presence that she showed, she projected quiet confidence. And so everyone had confidence in her, regardless of what was actually happening. And I'm like, that is so powerful that there can be the reality of how you're performing and what you're doing. But the way that you're conveying it and the way that you're showing up and composing yourself actually matters more, 90+% of the time, in terms of people just granting you that confidence and therefore granting you that authority. And there's one specific moment in time where the light bulb went on for me. We all know I'm obsessed with time management.
You know.
And with not being late. And so we would have these meetings, and she would be late to these meetings because she was so very busy and important. But she didn't rush in frantically and apologetically. She would glide in holding her venti Starbucks and stand in the back of the room. And it was conveying to everybody that she is doing us a favor by being there, versus there was something wrong with her being late. It was the most brilliant mental jujitsu I'd ever seen. So here I am, like, I will do anything to get to a meeting on time. My meetings start on time, they end on time. Everybody knows this. And that was less important than what she was doing. And that really is a form of executive presence, because even though we were at the same level, which wasn't at the client executive level, she was conveying she was one of them. That her time was more important than what was going on, and not in a way that other people could resent. I am not suggesting anybody do this, by the way. There are very few people who could pull this off. And so I'm not suggesting to do that. But what was really apparent to me was that her constant composure was more important than what she was doing in terms of other people's impression of her. And so that was confidence.
Yeah, I love the term quiet confidence too. That really stuck out with me. Can you give some more examples about quiet confidence?
Yeah, I will, in different contexts, this is very different, but I'll see a lot of consultants who are at that mid-level stage, right? They've gotten a few promotions, they've got a good title, but they're still not super seasoned. And what they'll do in client presentations is they will over explain and over justify their thought. And And what that does is it conveys that they don't have the confidence in themselves or in their idea that they can just say the thing and it lands and it's done.
Ooh.
And that's a big one for me. And
Yeah.
quiet confidence is me telling you, this is why you need to do X, Y, and Z. Here's why I'm telling you that.
And then just letting it sit there, that silence. Yeah, that silence is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
When I've noticed when I'm feeling insecure about something, I go on and on and on, kind of in a bunch of different directions and ramble. And then I'm like, why am I still talking?
You're rambling to see what
To
lands.
see what lands. And been afraid to just say what I said and let it sit there.
Yep. And
Ooh.
quiet confidence is I'm saying the thing that matters.
Ooh,
And I'm going to let you respond to that.
that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. It is hugely effective, especially with, I'm going to keep saying clients, but it's not just consulting because, again, everybody's got clients one way or another, whether that's a
Right.
stakeholder, an executive, whoever you're working with. It is hugely powerful to do that because they know you are believing in what you're saying, and that causes them to pause and think, why should I also believe in it in a positive way versus trying to find the holes in it? They're knowing that's their sign that they need to pause to understand what you're saying.
So, what are some other ways we hold ourselves back around confidence?
For me, it's actually the tone of voice.
Mm.
So, one of the things I learned early on is that sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it,
Ooh.
which means that words are important, but it's your actual voice that tends to matter more. And if you notice, and this is something where if you ever get any voice coaching, which I highly recommend if you want to do a lot of speaking, presenting, meetings, that kind of thing, is that you lower your voice a little bit and people lean in to listen. You speak slower and it sounds like you're more confident in what you're saying. And so if you've ever heard, I think it's a song where he's like slow and low, that is the tempo.
Yeah.
That's true for speaking. I'm going to say that. So whenever you want people to really listen to what you're saying, you slow down your cadence, you lower your tone, and you can be a little bit quieter. I don't suggest whispering. Some people bring this way too far, so I'm not going to go that far on the whispering thing because I think that's cuckoo bananas. It's frankly just annoying. But slow and low, and people are going to listen to what you're saying. It's conveying confidence. You're confident in what you're saying. You're not rushing to say it. You're not speaking from a nervous register. You're speaking from your lower place. And to me, that's actually what speaking from the heart means.
Oh.
You're saying true things, but you're speaking in a lower register. You're speaking from your chest, not your throat.
Yeah. And I think in the past as well is something I would do is kind of go up and end on a question. And I think that definitely has undermined me in the past of not sounding confident. Because if you're asking a question, you're not confident in your statement.
You've got to stop doing that because I might die. But you are totally right. And I completely forgot about that. That is actually one of the first things they teach you in executive presence, and especially for women, is do not end with a questioning intonation. Like you speak as a statement. You make statements. Confident statements.
I said what I said.
I said what I said.
Like the little attitude too. I said what I said.
I said what I said, and I was sure about it, and you should be sure of it too.
Ooh, that's so good.
It's
Ooh,
real.
that's really, I mean, anything you say like that, I'm going to be like, yeah, sure, I believe you. Like, okay. Yes, ma'am.
The next thing that's holding you back is not asking for what you want.
Not asking for what you want. Like, can you hand me that pen? Or like, how do you mean?
Well, you're not going to get the pen if you don't ask.
Fair.
So it's definitely holding you back, right? So unintentionally, great example, Abby. But yeah, I'd say it's so basic to say you're not going to get what you want if you don't ask for it. But if you think about all the ways you're not asking for things, all the things you're not asking for, respect, people adhering to your boundaries, right? People giving you assignments, promotions. It is at every scale. But I think the easy ones are promotion and assignments, but it doesn't mean we should gloss over it. So I'm going to say promotions and assignments, meaning you want the juicy project and you think everybody knows you want that project. You don't get that project and you think, oh, I guess I didn't deserve it. Or they think I don't deserve it and I do. And you make this whole story in your head. But at the end of the day, did you ask for that project? Did you? Like, did you go to them and say, I would like to do this project and here's the 5 reasons why I'm ready?
But working hard and just putting your nose to the grindstone and doing all the work that's not asking?
That's not enough, girl. That is what we call necessary, but not sufficient.
Ooh.
But it's true. We do think if we just work hard enough, of course they'll know that I want that assignment. Of
Yeah.
course
It's
they'll
obvious.
know. I told them I got my certification and blah, blah, blah. Of course they know that should be my next project. They don't. They're not thinking about you as much as you are. Nobody
Mm.
is. And so make it easy for them to help you by telling them that that is what you want. And again, give them the reasons why that is a good idea. And same thing for promotions. So in my first career, I'd been there forever and I loved what I was doing. And at some point, I had decided I wanted to transition into leadership, which is an amazing story that we'll get into in another episode. But I had made this decision and my boss was leaving. So she was leaving for another company and I didn't have a manager title at the time. I was a lead, but I wasn't officially a manager. And then she had an official manager underneath her and he wanted that promotion. And everybody thought it was his promotion to get, that he would naturally be her follower. So I went to our CTO because that role at the time reported to the CTO. And I said, I would like this job and I think I should have it. And here's why. And he was shocked. He said, I had no idea you were interested in that role. And if I hadn't asked for it, he never would have gotten it. And I was at the point in my career where I was dead sure they knew that that is what I wanted to do. I was convinced that they knew that was what I wanted to do. That was such an aha moment to me of you think people know what you want and why
Yeah.
you should get it. And they often don't. And it would have gone to this other guy if I hadn't said anything. So we worked out an arrangement. That sounds bad. We agreed that we would spend 6 months where he and I would split her responsibilities
Mm.
and may the best woman win.
Ah.
And she did. But if I'd never asked for it, it wouldn't happen.
If you're not comfortable asking for things, how do you get comfortable asking for things? Especially big things. How do we get there?
Why
What's
aren't you
the
comfortable?
roadmap? Not used to it. Not used to asking for things at all. Definitely not asking for big things. Probably a lot of shame of feeling like maybe I do it? Maybe I can't. Not feeling worthy of it, even though you want it, and then you feel a little weird about wanting it. But that's, I think, something that I think a lot of women, I know me in the past, it's really struggled with. How dare I ask? How dare you want that? How have you overcome that in the past?
I think that the reason I asked why is because your answer is what you need to work on.
Mm.
And for everybody, it might be a slightly different flavor of one of the things you just said, but it's going to be most likely one of those things. But I think that that is the first question you have to ask yourself. If you're in that position where you're like, I'm not comfortable asking for what I want, I think the first thing you need to do is ask yourself why. And in the spiritual world, there's this concept of doing your shadow work and confronting your shadow self. And it's all the darknesses or the things you don't like about yourself or your weaknesses. And I think the same thing is true in the professional world is you need to do your shadow work.
Mm.
And the flip side of that is once I got into the level of leadership role where I was deciding about other people's promotions, that was actually my first rubric was, are they ready? And I'll know that they're at least partially ready if they ask for it. But if you don't ask for it, you're not ready.
You're definitely not ready.
And so if you find yourself saying, I'm not comfortable asking for this or I'm not ready to ask for it, well, that means you're not actually ready for the role in some way. You may have the technical skills, but you need some of the self-management skills or you're missing something. But the asking yourself, why am I not comfortable asking for this? That's the shadow work professionally that you need to be doing is confronting that. And whether it's a fear of being not enough, or I'm going to say sometimes if you're afraid that you're not ready, that's your sign to say to yourself, why am I not ready and what do I need to do about it? And every hurdle I've ever run into is always, what do I need to do about that? What am I missing? Great. How am I going to go learn that?
Yeah.
And how am I going to tell people I'm learning that so then I get credit for having done it? Because what you don't want to do is be doing all this work in a vacuum. And then you go to somebody and you're like, I'm ready. And they're like, whoa, you didn't bring them on the journey with you.
Ah.
So sometimes you have to tell somebody, I'd like to be on this path. Here's the work I know I need to be doing. What work do you think I need to be doing?
Yeah.
And especially for your first big manager title promotion, that tends to be the first big hurdle where it's not solved by just technical skills, where it's solved by that deeper work of having confidence. But if you don't have the confidence to ask for a promotion, you can't be a manager.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past I've done a lot of work around asking because I started out afraid to ask for anything for fear I wouldn't get it or whatever reason. And I read a book years ago that was really great about asking and just practice asking everywhere in your life, even the small things. If you've got, one thing at the grocery store and there's somebody in front of you with a cart full of things, ask that person, can I go ahead of you? And then using the word because, can I go ahead of you because I've only got this one thing? And generally, you'll get that asking for little things gave me the confidence to ask for bigger things. So the book was really great, and I have to put it in the show notes because it's escaping me at the moment. It was practicing asking for little things adds up to being able to ask for the big thing. And I thought that was a really great way, practical way. I've never asked for a huge promotion or salary increase. Well, I've never asked for, to cut in the line at the grocery store either, but I'd done that and I didn't die and I'm okay. And if they say no, okay, that's fine. You can handle a no. I think part of my fear of asking in the past was I couldn't handle a no because I made that mean something about me. That was a really great practical way to get comfortable asking.
Yeah, I think fear of rejection is tough. And I think that that's also really good work to do, right? Like I was afraid of the no. I think that's so awesome because if you can really do the self work on fear of rejection, it is hugely, hugely powerful and can unlock so many things for you. If you genuinely don't care about rejection, you can do so many things and you will be amazed at what opportunities come to you because you're not afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so
Right.
huge. I think it's funny though when we talk about asking for things because I think people miss the first crucial step because I think people think it's assumed. But fundamentally, you have to know what you want. And you would be shocked at how many people don't actually verbalize to themselves what they want. So that's what I call not knowing what you want. You may have this subconscious desire for something and then resent you're not getting it, but you've never said out loud to yourself, I want that job title. I want that promotion. I want to move to that team. And I think that you have to give yourself permission first to say it to you before you can actually say it to somebody else. You have to admit, I want that thing. And that requires admitting I am worthy to have that thing.
Yeah.
And I
That's
can tell you
scary.
right now, you are worthy to have that thing. The question is, are you ready? And then do that work and go after the thing. That's my formula.
Great formula.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. I really want you to tell your story, Abby, of how you asked for your promotion. I think it's a good story.
Yeah. My most recent example was I was a product owner and I was acting as more than a product owner. And I wanted to ask for a director title. I wanted that director title, but I was a little scared of it. I'm not going to lie, because that's big. I'd never gotten that far in my career before. So I decided to be ready before I was ready. That makes sense. I did the work and was like, okay, what do I really want? To exactly your point, what do I want? I want the director title. I want a director title. I am ready for the director title. And just admitting that to myself was like probably the hardest part. Then the next I spent crafting, okay, do I want director of Salesforce, Salesforce director, like in kind of going over the terms of like what felt the most right. And then I was in a conversation with my boss and it felt organic and I asked for it and I got it on the spot, which blew my mind. I did not think that that could happen, but I was ready and I had owned it and I had embodied it before I needed to ask. I had spent time building up and acting this way. Embody it before you become it. People say fake it till you make it. I like embody it before you become it because I don't like faking anything. But I really embodied that role. I was like, if I'm going to be a director, how am I showing up? I did that visualization work. Visualization work is really important to me. How am I showing up? What decisions am I making? What clothes am I wearing? How am I showing up in meetings if I'm this role? And
Because
not
you want them to see you that way before you go
exactly.
ask for it.
Exactly. That's the
So it's an
embody
easy
it.
yes.
So it's an easy yes. They're
Yes.
already used to seeing me this way. It's a natural extension of what I'm already doing.
That's right.
And that was hugely powerful. It was all the work before the ask that made the ask possible.
Mm-hmm. And again, it started with deciding you wanted it.
Deciding I wanted it,
And then what am I going
admitting,
to do to get it?
and what do I need to do? How do I need to show up? What decisions am I making? Living in that body, living in that skin, living in that role before I actually got there.
And that's kind of one example of what I talk about, like, what do I need to do to be ready? And you decided, I want this image so that they perceive me this way. So it is that easy. Yes, that's part of readiness. Readiness isn't always developing a skill. I mean, I love developing skills, so I'm going to say definitely develop more skills. But sometimes it's really, okay, great. I'm going to work on my executive presence. I'm going to work on my self presentation. I'm going to work on my image. I'm going to work on that. And that's going to make it the yes for me.
Yeah.
And it did.
And it did.
That's why I love that story. And it did.
And it worked.
Yep. So powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
As we mentioned in the last episode, this is a 3-part series, so stay tuned for part 3.
And if you like this episode, please like and subscribe for more. And if you want us to go deeper on any of these topics and you happen to be a YouTube viewer, please leave a comment because we would love to know which of these things you'd like to hear more about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, bye.